Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, but I
I
haven't.
wonder if a beer would.
A cider.
Okay.
You guys all get along. I can't imagine if you won one of these boards that.
Well, because we're thinking about the problems to
Oh,
be
is that it?
solved.
Right.
and
All right, that's fine.
It really is,
Oh,
yeah.
it's not.
It's
Yeah.
not about
It's not-
Each other,
frustration.
yeah.
It's more like,
Okay, we are alive.
Okay,
All right,
finally.
I'll make a motion to go back into regular session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And would you take that next
Yes.
motion?
Motion to approve the proposed settlement of the copyright claim of Michael Brenner for $4,500 and to authorize the mayor to execute the settlement agreement.
second.
Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, Tom.
I'm not reading this.
So a resolution setting a public hearing on the special use permit application for 8 Forester Avenue. Whereas the village board of the Village of Warwick has received an application from Warwick LLC for grant of a special use permit to convert existing office space on the first floor of the building at 8 Forester Avenue, section 207, block 3, lot 3, into 3 one-bedroom apartments and to add a second floor with 3 additional one-bedroom apartments pursuant to Village Code section 145-161. And whereas under the Village Code, it is necessary to hold a public hearing on the said application. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1. That a public hearing on the said application for a special use permit is set for November 6, 2023 at 7:30 o'clock p.m. And 2. That the village clerk shall publish, post, and provide notice of the public hearing as required by the Village Code. And 3. That the village clerk shall provide a referral to the Orange County Planning Department under General Municipal Law, Section 239-M.
Second.
Okay, and it's a roll call vote?
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
Motion to hire Kristen Bielowski to the position of full-time secretary to the planning board in accordance with civil service requirements with a start date of November 6, 2023.
Second.
Okay,
Discussion.
okay.
I'm really excited about this role.
So are we.
Oh,
And
yes.
you know what,
And
we've,
we've worked meeting
we've
already.
had multiple meetings with the boards, with the chairs of each board, and they are very excited as well. And in the interim, though, the bridge has been Raina and Jen, who have done a remarkable job on snarling our code and trying to set things right so that when this new person comes, when the new secretary comes on board, that she'll have some very good teachers, and I'm excited about that. So thank you very much
Yes.
for all that hard work.
Thank you.
It's been fun. It's been exciting to get through, yeah.
And has there been kind of continued discussion about in the case that, you know, things are running smoothly and there's, you know, not the full time is being taken up with those specific responsibilities, that there is an opportunity to support with the grants and the other special projects that,
I believe there will be, you know, and I think that's going to be part of it.
that's great.
So we have a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we have a couple addendums. Right.
So that would be me.
That would be you.
Resolution accepting and adopting the draft climate action plan for government operations. Whereas the village board of the Village of Warwick recognizes the risk that climate change poses to its community. And whereas in order to combat climate change, the Village of Warwick is committed to addressing greenhouse gas GHG emissions at the local level. And whereas in furtherance of this goal, in 2019, the village board adopted a resolution committing to the Climate Smart Communities Pledge to set reduction goals for GHG emissions. And whereas in 2022, the village board formally established the Climate Smart Task Force, CSTF, to inter alia facilitate the village's climate change related actions and to provide guidance to village officials on steps that can be taken to advance the village's progress in environmental sustainability. And whereas the CSTF has drafted and provided to the village board a draft climate action plan for government operations, CAP, a copy of which is on file in the office of the village clerk. And whereas the CAP proposes overall environmental sustainability and resilience goals, both short-term and long-term, for the village and provides recommendations for updating the government operations GHG inventory and emissions reduction initiatives, as well as providing that the CSCTF will take on responsibilities of a Climate Action Committee, CAC. And whereas the village board wishes to approve and adopt the CAP and undertake the recommendations and provisions therein going forward as circumstances and funding may allow. Now therefore be resolved that the village board hereby approves and adopts the draft climate action plan for government operations.
Second?
Okay.
Yeah, could.
Any
just
discussion?
A little bit of discussion. So, my read of it is that cost is always allowed to be a factor in whatever decisions we make down the line. So we're not committing to do anything that would incur a cost for the village until we actually know exactly what that is. This is a pretty general and broad document. Would you agree?
Completely agreed. So the Climate Smart Communities program, certain actions are weighted higher than others. This one is weighted quite high. The whole purpose is to signal the intention and to come up with ideas based on community input of what are some of the things the village can and should pursue in effort to reach some very vague and soft target. So we're not committing ourselves to anything. It's just basically saying we're taking a closer look. And this benefits from coming on the heels of the comprehensive plan, in that this was one of the overall goals to consider. And we received a number of comments and input from residents during that process. So we've benefited from the outreach there. We have a CSC task force, which is made up of residents who's given their input as well. So I basically took that, created this greenhouse gas inventory for government operations plan. This is just government operations, so the 5 facilities and the vehicle fleet. And basically, it's looking at how can we reduce 15 to 20% by 2028, and there are certain ways that it will be tangible, right? If we continue the work we're doing with the street lights, right, and look at other things like potential vehicle fleet conversion. There's a lot of different things that could add up, and some of the actions that you saw on the plan are simply, we should just study this aspect because we don't know enough about it, right? So they're broad strokes.
Yeah, and it was a very well-written document. I appreciate all the effort you put
Yeah, it was
into
great.
to doing it.
It is great.
The 15, you just mentioned the 15 to 20% reduction. How was that arrived at? Is that something that's kind of, you get more points if your plan has 15 to 20%?
No, has nothing to do with
goal, or-
that. It's actually less than the state's targets. Whereas it would be very nice to be in line with the states. We don't know enough. We're still early in our journey, right? So I took a bit of a softer approach there.
All right, good.
But
Thank you.
it could say 5%. It's not holding us to
Right,
anything.
right.
These are just aspirational.
Right. Yeah. Good, thank you.
Any other questions?
And I will say one more thing. This is a draft. It's actually meant to be something that we can update on an ongoing basis. But then why is it in a resolution now? Because that's what New York State is requiring to signal that we have done this as part of the CSC program.
Well, it's a living document, so it would like always be kind of a
Yeah, it's basically saying this exists.
version.
So I guess then a question, so it was presented as a draft, but by adopting this resolution, are we adopting that as a final?
Yeah, but you can always change it.
Yeah, no, I get it, I just want to be clear as to what
Where it is,
the action
yeah.
is that we're taking. So we're basically converting it from a draft to an adopted plan, which is fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Just so- yeah.
I know I had some comments that haven't made their way in yet, but they were, none of them were like none of them were deal killers at all.
Right.
Like, they were like, maybe we should put the fleet stuff in the pie chart, like, we should add a funding section. Those are all like, future version opportunities.
Yeah, and I had some specific things that, I think are worthy of discussion as we move forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, it's great,
Yeah, it's
Tom.
great.
And it's,
Thank you.
it's really kind of a platform, I guess, is what we're creating. So,
That's it, yeah.
so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh,
Aye.
wait, is it,
Roll call.
it was roll call?
call.
Okay, sorry about that. I didn't see.
Okay, trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Aye.
Trustee McKnight?
I mean,
Yes.
yes.
Same thing.
Laura?
Yes.
And Mayor Dillhart?
Yes.
At least you didn't say President.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I believe this is the last one.
No, I've got one after you.
You've got one, fantastic, okay. I have a resolution introducing a proposed local law imposing a one-year moratorium on land use approvals for development of public utility facilities involving energy storage systems. Whereas the village board, the Village of Warwick, has a local law before it entitled the Village of Warwick Temporary Moratorium on the Acceptance and Processing of Applications for Approval of Public Utility Facilities Involving Energy Storage Systems. And whereas in order to enact the said local law, it is necessary to formally introduce it and hold a public hearing on it. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. That the movement of this resolution does hereby introduce the proposed local law. And two, that a public hearing on the proposed local law be set for November 6, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. and that due notice of the same time is directed to be given by publication and posting.
Okay.
Second. Discussion?
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You go first.
No, you go first.
I think this makes sense. I also really want to have that conversation with Orange and Rockland about, and I don't think that these are mutually exclusive. I just want to make sure that we have that conversation, because I am concerned about what it means that we don't have this and that we're overstressing the grid and what's going to happen if there's a natural disaster, like, all those questions. And my understanding of this is that we could also, the way that the local law is written, it does provide us some freedoms, and so I'm okay with that. I just wanted to kind of put out
Did you feel like you want to have the discussion with Orange and Rockland before the public hearing, or you said they don't have to? They can be independent.
I
from
don't
each
think
other?
they have to be mutually
No.
exclusive.
Okay.
Because if there's extraordinary hardship, if the village board ultimately decides that it doesn't serve our best interest, then we're able,
Right.
to take an alternate path, but.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
one,
but definitely, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, definitely that conversation has to happen because next summer won't be the good summer.
Right.
You know what I
Won't be
mean? I
lucky.
mean, he's like, oh, well, we were lucky. So what happens when we're not so lucky?
Yeah,
So,
what if it was like last summer?
Yeah. So anyway, Barry, sorry to interrupt.
not much has changed relative to the grid since last summer, so, I mean,
Yeah, it was,
we survived, not that we don't want to know those answers
Yeah.
and understand what we might be able to do to help with the problem,
yeah.
but the problem probably doesn't get resolved until they build the substation. So, yeah, my one, I guess, question or concern about it, all right, and I think it makes sense, we have an exemption for residential properties. But what about commercial properties who want to have a battery storage system associated with a solar that's the same size as what you'd see at a residential property? So I'm just wondering whether it should be focused not so much on the type of use of the property as opposed to the size of the battery storage. And I don't have an answer for what that should be. I would think it would be achievable. Was this taken from the town's
In
moratorium?
part, yes. In
So
part,
they
yes.
did it, yeah.
They have a different term for the use that they're that they're putting a moratorium on, but it's,
Right.
at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's the same thing. I did not see an exception in the towns for commercial uses.
Yeah, and it just, it seems to me that it's the size of the battery storage that should tip whether it's part of the moratorium or not, or exempt from the moratorium as opposed to residential versus commercial. So, I mean, I think we should move forward with it. We can always
Is there,
make a change to it.
is there a program? Because I mean, I know that there is a residential program that's been pretty robust that Orange and Rockland has been
Yeah.
sponsoring. But is there a commercial program as well, or is there, because I haven't heard
Yeah, I
or
don't-
seen anything in that realm
Right.
at this
I mean,
point.
again, Orange and Rockland is trying to enhance their grid capabilities, and I wouldn't think they'd care whether it was solar coming from a commercial versus solar coming from a residential, as long as the size doesn't put it in a different category that makes it something that should not be exempted.
So this would be like a large, what we have on Church Street and at the school would be considered a large
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
array or something,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
along that.
On this same note, though, should we also be considering, I recognize that the majority of like small scale battery fires have been like aftermarket, and so they're not, but should we be considering whether or not we should be requesting some kind of special inspection or anything like that? Should we think a little bit more about those
Actually,
systems?
they are going through some pretty rigorous inspection and fire safety
At
It's-
the
it's
residential
at the
level?
residential level. Yeah, I mean, they're not allowed to be like in a garage. They have to be in a protected, fire-safe area, from what Boris has told me.
Okay.
And he's gotten some pushback because the town does not go through that level of measure.
They're not as densely populated.
Right, exactly, yeah. So-
Well, what I'd suggest is that you notice the public hearing. Public hearing may result in some changes in the wording, and what you do is you would hold the public hearing over. You don't have to renotice it if you've noticed it once. Make the changes, post it, and then you can adopt the local law with the changes in it after, if you decide you want to go by size or you want to put in other exemptions or what have you. And like I said, maybe people come here and they say things that we haven't thought of, and that results in other changes in the text, so. But,
Should we look at those requirements that Boris mentioned for the residential systems and commercial systems? Is that something
Well,
that
certainly
we could send the board?
when we go to create our code, yeah, that needs to be part of it. I would think. Yeah. And then it didn't really say anything with respect to modifying an existing permit for a facility and how that would be treated. So by establishing a moratorium, are we establishing it just on new projects, or are we also establishing it on projects that might have to come back to the planning board for revision?
it says all land uses, all land use approvals. So I would think that would cover amendments, but if you want to be more clear about that, certainly we can write that in.
How many of these do we have? I thought we only had the one on Church Street, the large,
Well,
that was the only
Yeah,
large one.
well, I don't, that might not be the case.
Okay.
In terms of, how it's used, that's unique. The fact that they're taking energy off the grid and then selling it back to O&R at a later date. But there are, my guess is there are other battery storage, or batteries used for backup and storage that,
But not on that scale?
Yeah,
not on that scale.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
asking about.
but on a scale larger than the panel you put attached to your solar on the roof.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it would, I don't know whether the rest of the board agrees, but I think it would be good to have the moratorium include those, anyone, not only a new project, but anyone requesting a
Revision.
revision to an existing permit.
I
Would
agree
it-
with you.
I agree with that.
Maybe only one that would result in an expansion? Because what if they're doing like,
I would say any change, because right now, we're not sure, where we want to go with the code. So,
Yeah.
we'll need to figure that out, and that may be part of where we go with the code.
okay,
Well, do you want to wait and have a redraft and then introduce that, or do you want to introduce this and then make changes to it after the public hearing?
I would be interested to see what other points are brought up at the public hearing. And then that might change how we draft things.
Yeah, I mean, if it can wait till after we have the public hearing or during the public hearing, then,
But that's one way of proceeding, and the other way is redraft it now and then put it out as best you can, and you can always change when the public hearing goes. Michael tells me there are no applications pending
right.
for this, so I mean, if you want to wait and introduce it at the next meeting, make these changes in between, you certainly could do that, or in the alternative, you can introduce it now, hold the public hearing over, make the changes after that.
I guess I would opt for doing it now.
yeah.
Me too. Yes. Okay,
So you had a motion and a second on that, didn't you?
that's
Ready
correct.
for the roll call?
Yes.
Well, are you doing it now, meaning you want to go forward with the public hearing?
With the
or-
public hearing,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
I'm sorry.
But then if
Sorry, I
something
didn't-
comes up at
I
the
wasn't there, you're right.
if something comes up at the public hearing that we didn't include, we can amend it.
Do that also.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
All right. Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Cora?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes. Okay, Barry.
Motion to authorize payment number 4 to TAM Enterprises, Inc. in the amount of $108,570 for the South Street Sidewalk Replacement Project is certified by Village Engineer David Getz of Engineering and Surveying Properties. Funds are appropriated in Budget Code A.5110.4400 in the 2023-24 budget.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion. Do we have an updated date for when they're gonna, work on the next stretch?
On the next stretch.
No,
No.
Okay,
we're
it's this fall
efforting
sometime,
getting
right?
that. Well, the funding that we have has to be spent by the end of November, I believe, correct, Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, so, and they are aware of that.
Okay,
So,
and that, so you're confident that that's not gonna get disrupted? Yeah,
At this point, I don't know.
okay. What's do you know what could stand in the way?
There shouldn't be anything that stands in the way. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. They bring their form, they dig the area out, they bring their forms in, they pour the concrete, and in this case, they'll walk away at the end of that, and we're gonna do the final site work with topsoil and seeding. So
They just haven't,
DPW.
they just haven't said when they're coming? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Reports.
You really want to do this?
I would love
All
it.
right. Here we go. Update on the well number 3 treatment plant project. Orange County Department of Health has approved the design, but it still needs to receive from us a survey that shows our ownership in a 100-foot radius of the well and our control over a 200-foot radius of the well. We are awaiting that from the surveyor so that we can move ahead and get any additional easements. We know we own the 100 feet. The way the well was situated within the 400 by 400 foot, or yeah, 400 by 400 foot square that it's in, was not in the center, so that kind of messes things up a little bit. So we're going to have to work with the property owner to get an easement that takes that arc. And we also need to perform some water quality testing, which will require, because the well has not been pumped, it will require a couple of days of pumping before we actually do the testing. That's going to be scheduled within the next couple of weeks. And then the expectation is that it would be able to be bid late winter, and construction would begin in spring of 2024. Maple Ave pump station relocation. The foundation borings were finally completed. That was the one thing they were waiting on. It was an MWBE issue again. And the geotechnical boring logs are expected by the end of the month. They're expecting to submit to Orange County Department of Health in mid-December. They have to finish the foundation design. Looking for a bid opening in late March, releasing the bid documents sometime in early to mid-February, awarding the contract in April and starting construction in May. The expectation is construction should take 6 to 8 months, but it's going to be dictated by the lead time on the delivery of the building and the equipment.
So those will both be going on at the same, that and the wastewater treatment plant
All
will
three
have.
of them
Yeah,
will be.
happen.
It's gonna be a Lollapalooza.
Wow.
But they'll be done
That's a lot.
before the road paving project starts. And before this,
That's all I have.
I have no report.
Okay. Mary?
Yeah, I do. There will be this year a Halloween candy donation drop off, thanks to former trustee Eileen Patterson at Track 7. That's 3 Forster Avenue. So you can drop off donations by Friday, October 27th. Also, the community center is having a haunted house experience. This benefits the Warwick Valley Community Center and the youth programs they have there. That will be this weekend. This is the weekend, right? The 20th and 21st. From 6 to 9 p.m. Admission is $10. You can find out more on their website. Also wanted to announce that the mayor and I met with the Architectural Review Board at their last meeting to discuss things like putting together a guidebook and a flow chart and just different things that will get the word out about what they do, how they function, the certain procedures, and I'm excited to get started on that to make things move a little smoother. We also had our first inclusion task force meeting about a month ago, and we identified certain disconnects in our community and came up with some solutions. Our next step, we will be inviting key players to work with us and move forward with those actions. And my last report is the next village newsletter will be in your mailboxes the first week in December. So any deadline for content would be November 17th. That's it
Thank you.
for me.
Thank you. Tom?
No report?
Okay. And I have no report. So,
Motion to adjourn?
there you go.
Public comment too?
Oh,
Oh.
public comment. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Well done, everyone.
Yeah.
Can I have the recorder?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Mary, you can chalk this up as your longest so far.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
You should just head right to the airport, Mary.
Yeah, thank you.
Halloween.
Happy
Go to the
Halloween.
airport right
I
now.
know, right?
Bye, Steve.
Just go to the airport.
Yep, sleep on, because you know how, Katie